After accidentally killing the probation worker, Tony, 5 juvenile delinquents have decided to keep it a secret. However, someone keeps sending them threatening posters, seemingly aware of what they did. Then, 4 of them and other random residents in Wortham acquire special abilities after a disastrous storm. While the others are brainstorming about who's behind the threatening posters, Alisha is busy putting on makeup. Then, one of them suspects that Sally could be behind the posters, but to verify that, Simon needs to be invisible and observe the locker room. However, Simon cannot do it in front of them. When the other probationers exit the locker room, Simon's head starts shaking uncontrollably. Then, Simon becomes invisible, but he's disappointed because no one witnesses how he actually did it. Another probation worker, Ben, instructs the delinquents to sort a bunch of clothing that will be sent to Africa. But when the man leaves, the 4 only start goofing around instead of doing their task, while Simon remains invisible and just sits silently in the locker room. As the delinquents sort the clothes, Sally arrives with Jody, a girl with whom Kelly had a fight. To settle things between them, Sally calls Kelly into her office. Meanwhile, Ben returns with more clothes and even hits on Alisha. Inside the office, Sally attempts to have the 2 girls apologize and forgive each other, but they only remain stubborn and prideful. When Sally reprimands Nathan for wearing roller skates, Kelly hears Jody's negative thoughts and how they can't be friends, prompting her to also insult the girl. The girl's altercation leads to a physical fight, but suddenly, Kelly feels something strange on her skin. Then, Sally breaks up the fight and leads Jody outside to calm her down. Later that day, Alisha talks to Curtis about the offense he committed. Then, Alisha teases Curtis, saying she can have him anytime she wants by just touching him. Sure enough, one touch is all it takes for Curtis to be all over her, and they end up in the locker room, unaware that the invisible Simon is there. But after doing the deed with Alisha in the cubicle, Curtis comes to his senses. He furiously tells Alisha not to play with people and walks out. Alisha comes out crying. Then Ben approaches, offering to comfort her. When their shift ends, Nathan, Kelly, and Curtis go back to the locker room. Then, Simon materializes beside Curtis, finally proving to the group that he can turn invisible. That night, Alisha sleeps with Ben. At the same time, Simon chats with his virtual friend, Shy Girl 18, but as it turns out, Sally is behind the mysterious code name. Before closing her laptop, Sally looks at the wallpaper showing her and Tony. The next day, Simon is headed to the community center when he notices some men working under the flyover near where Tony and Gary's bodies are buried. To report the news, he immediately heads to the community center and approaches Nathan and Curtis, but Nathan is busy trying to smash a bottle using his mind. As Simon becomes restless, he drops the bomb that the bodies they buried may be discovered by the men building an environmental monitoring station under the flyover. To solve their problem, the group strategizes to move the bodies during the night using the car Alisha borrowed from her father. As they decide where to move the bodies, Simon suggests storing them first in the community center, causing Nathan to say he has the storeroom key and unintentionally reveal that he currently lives there. Later, as the delinquents dig, they start to smell the foul odor coming from the bodies. Nathan soon throws up, but when he recovers and starts digging again, he finds a severed hand under the dirt. They eventually retrieve the bodies, and while Simon secures them with a rope, he finds a wallet on one of them and secretly takes something from it. They load the bodies in the trunk and prepare to leave, but Nathan throws a severed hand at the car, shocking the girls who are already seated inside. The group then brings the bodies to the community center. While Kelly helps the others carry them inside a room, Nathan takes off the girl's cap, also removing her wig. Now that everyone knows Kelly has turned bald, she quickly runs out of shame. When Nathan leaves the others to follow Kelly, Alisha asks Simon to go as she wants to talk to Curtis in private. However, Curtis refuses to speak to her, and he only leaves her behind. Nathan eventually finds Kelly outside, calling her to return her cap and wig, but Kelly refuses to move, not wanting to be seen with no hair. However, Nathan promises not to look at her, so after he throws her cap and wig on the ground, Kelly immediately retrieves and wears them. As they stand by the railings, Nathan inquires about Kelly's baldness, and Kelly responds that her hair just started falling out when she took a shower that morning. Unfortunately, the doctors were also unable to identify her condition, and she still needs to undergo some tests. The next morning, Kelly notices a bald man banging on Jody's door. A accusing her of doing something to him. Kelly immediately assumes the guy was talking about his baldness, so she furiously tells Nathan that Jody has power and that the girl turned her bald. Later that day, Simon tells the others that they need to bury the bodies under the foundations of the environmental monitoring station before the workers pour in the concrete. So to carry out their plan, Curtis approaches Alisha after their shift to ask if she can borrow her father's car again. But with their unresolved problem, the two only end up arguing, and Alisha invites Ben to the park when he walks by. Then, it isn't long before a fuming Curtis leaves too. With Curtis and Alisha's love quarrel, Nathan, Kelly, and Simon are left to carry out their plan. To remedy their car problem, Simon suggests using Sally's car, so he turns invisible to obtain Sally's car keys. But just as they finish loading the bodies in the trunk, Sally unexpectedly arrives. The three immediately hide as Sally realizes her keys are missing, but she soon finds them inside the vehicle. Unfortunately, the probationers are unable to do anything but watch Sally drive off. On the other hand, Alisha goes to the park with Ben, hoping to distract herself from her fight with Curtis. But when Alisha decides to get out of the vehicle, Ben holds her and instantly tries to take advantage of her. Alisha tries to fight Ben, who is now on top of her. While she begs for the man to stop, Curtis luckily arrives to help her. But upon touching Alisha, Curtis is also unable to control himself and attempts to have his way with her. So, with all of Alicia's might, she breaks free from the men and even kicks Ben in the face before fleeing. Curtis immediately follows Alisha, who is frustrated over her uncontrollable power. But Curtis assures her that everything will be fine and that, despite having a unique effect on men, she will still find someone who will genuinely want her. After comforting Alisha, Curtis receives a call from Nathan and learns that the bodies are inside Sally's car. Then, Sally meets with Pete, the police officer looking into Tony's sudden disappearance. Pete informs her that Tony might be alive as he booked a flight to Spain using his credit card, but Sally argues that it could only be the 5 delinquents doing. Pete tells Sally to accept Tony's disappearance, saying the guy could be having an affair, but Sally insists that Tony would never do such a thing. The next day, the 5 delinquents wait for Sally to arrive, but when the woman notices a stinky smell coming from the trunk, she gets out of the car to open it and discovers Tony's body inside. As Curtis watches in fear, his power activates, and he is able to turn back time to when Sally's car is just about to arrive. Curtis tells everyone what will happen next, so Nathan creates a distraction by throwing a brick at her car's windshield to prevent Sally from opening the trunk. Nathan may have ended up in Sally's office, but this sacrifice pays off as the others successfully carry out their plan, and they watch as the concrete is poured in on the structure's foundation. Later that day, Kelly hides while waiting for Jody so she could come at her, but she learns that Jody herself has turned bald due to alopecia, which is hair loss caused by several factors, including stress. Kelly also takes off her wig, showing that she has turned bald. Jody then admits that sometimes she just wants others to know when she feels bad about herself, and when she feels like that, people go bald. Understandably, Kelly is worried about her condition, but Jody assures her that her hair will grow back after a couple of days. Finally, the two girls forgive each other. Meanwhile, Curtis learns from Ben that something happened between him and Alisha. Curtis immediately confronts Alisha in the locker room, but such confrontation leads them to confess their mutual feelings for each other. As the delinquents gather on the rooftop, Simon tells the group that he has stolen Tony's credit card and booked him a flight so people would think that he's still alive. Then, to celebrate their success in escaping punishment, Simon suggests going out for a drink, but no one agrees to go with him. When Simon is left alone, his body shakes violently until he drops to the ground, eventually turning invisible. One day, Curtis wakes up to his alarm and gets up, looking at the pictures of him and Alisha before reading the newspaper that reports his offense. Afterward, he walks to the community center, where he meets with Alisha. Later that morning, the 5 delinquents gather in the community center. As they go outside to do their task for the day, Sam, Curtis' ex-girlfriend, waits for him. Meanwhile, Sally is on her phone, receiving news that Tony could be walking around using his credit card, but Sally insists that someone has stolen it as no one has ever seen Tony. Then, Sally proceeds to search the delinquents' lockers, looking for something. Curtis and Sam decide to talk in private, and as they catch up, Sam inquires about Alisha. Curtis refuses to directly answer Sam's question, but instead, he apologizes to her. When Sam asks why Curtis never visited her, the guy replies he felt too guilty because it should have been him that went to prison and not her. Sam is utterly disappointed that Curtis never visited her in prison yet even managed to hook up with someone else. Before she leaves, Sam bitterly tells Curtis that he ruined her life, but as Curtis tries to go after Sam, his power activates, and he is able to turn back time to when he is partying in a club. Curtis is confused for a second, but he recovers and follows Sam into the corner of the club. After they share a kiss, Curtis tells Sam that they can't buy any substances, but then Danny, a dealer, comes up to them with the stuff, and the police catch them in that situation. Curtis tries to escape while carrying the stuff, and the cop, Pete, follows him as he locks himself in the restroom. Curtis attempts to get rid of the substance down the toilet, but he first unclogs it with his hand before successfully flushing it. Then fortunately, Curtis manages to flee the restroom through a window, just as Pete kicks the door down. While Curtis hides in the parking lot, Nathan passes by, but when Curtis calls him for help, Nathan doesn't recognize him, and Curtis has to stop him from making so much noise. So Curtis just tells him to leave and proceeds to call Sam, but moments later, Pete finds Curtis, and he runs again to escape. Nathan is inside a bowling alley and gets in trouble with Beverly, the manager, who catches him taking a drink and pick and mix without paying. Beverly confronts Nathan, telling him to pay up and leave. However, Nathan only mocks him, prompting Beverly to call security, but Nathan grabs the walkie-talkie from Beverly, broadcasting offensive things about him. They then end up on the floor as Beverly tries to restrain Nathan. On the other hand, Curtis receives a call from Sam and learns that the police let her go, but she's being cornered by Danny, who wants his stuff. So Curtis tells Sam he is coming to the club to pay Danny. When security arrives to get Nathan, the boy pretends to have a seizure. Beverly quickly instructs the security officer to call an ambulance, so Nathan runs off, causing damage to the place. The security officer and Beverly try to corner Nathan in the bowling alley until they catch him. Meanwhile, a drunk Kelly is also partying in the same club. Then, after sharing a kiss with her boyfriend Lee, she groggily exits the club. Nathan is brought to Beverly's office and demanded to either pay for the damages or get reported to the police, but Nathan chooses the former, prompting him to give his card to Beverly. As Curtis climbs up to the club, he sees Kelly sitting in the corner. He stops to attend to her, giving Kelly his hoodie and forgetting to get the money inside the hoodie's pocket. At the same time, Nathan gets scolded by Beverly for giving him an expired credit card. When Curtis is about to pay Danny, he realizes that the money is in his hoodie with Kelly. Curtis explains he'll just get the money outside, but Danny refuses to believe him. Unfortunately, they end up fighting, and Danny accidentally stabs Sam. As Curtis holds a wounded Sam, he is able to turn back time to when he is again surrounded by the crowd in the club. The events pan out just as before, but this time, when Danny walks to them to hand the stuff, Curtis asks Sam to run while he handles the guy. Curtis runs to the restroom again. When he is about to flush the substance, he realizes the toilet will be clogged and immediately escapes through the window while Danny goes after him. Just like before, Nathan passes by while Curtis hides in the parking lot, but Curtis decides not to call him, knowing that Nathan will only piss him off. Nathan's fate, however, stays the same, for he still ends up in Beverly's office, being pressured to pay for his damages while he talks to his mom on the phone. The same things also happen to Kelly, and as she walks through the crowd, she doesn't notice Simon bringing a bottle of beer to someone he believes has invited him to the party, but as it turns out, the man is meant to call another Simon. When Curtis climbs back to the club, he once again sees Kelly sitting in the corner, but this time, he gets his money before giving his hoodie to the girl. Upon meeting Sam inside the club, Curtis instructs her to call Danny so he can give him back his stuff. However, when Danny approaches them, the police arrive to search them for substances. Luckily, Curtis is able to secure the stuff somewhere else, and it isn't long before the cops let them go. On the other hand, Nathan's father shows up in the manager's office to pay for his damages after receiving a call from his mother. However, Nathan instead tells Beverly to call the police, not wanting his father to bail him out. Curtis leads Danny to the parking lot, where he retrieves the stuff he hid in a car. In exchange for saving him, Danny offers the substance to Curtis for free, but Curtis declines. Nathan eventually gets escorted by security, and Tony watches them leave the bowling alley while on a date with Sally. When Kelly and Lee head to the parking lot, Lee proceeds to steal someone else's car. As they get inside, Lee finds an engagement ring in the glove compartment and uses it to propose to Kelly. Meanwhile, when Curtis and Sam go back to the club, Curtis finally meets Alisha at the bar, even buying the girl her favorite drink. As Tony and Sally walk to the parking lot, Tony realizes that his car is gone. Tony is enraged, especially since Sally's engagement ring is in the vehicle. But despite not having the ring, Sally still says yes to Tony. The events flash before Curtis' eyes again, and he awakens to the sound of his alarm. However, when he arrives at the community center, he discovers that all the other delinquents have died except for Nathan. Nathan tells Curtis that the others died because their probation worker suddenly attacked them while doing their community service. Curtis blames himself for their deaths as he was not able to stop Tony from attacking them. Then, he time jumps again, returning to the night in the club. This time, he intends to get caught by the police while also ensuring that Sam will not be involved in the mess. However, just when Pete is going to take him away, he once again wakes up in his bed. Curtis, fortunately, returns to the time when he is doing community service with the other delinquents while also being in a relationship with Alisha. But that morning, Curtis sees Sam waiting for him outside the community center. Curtis realizes they are still together, and he has two-timed Alisha and Sam. Meanwhile, Sally searches the lockers of the delinquents, and when she checks Simon's things, she finds Tony's credit card inside his bag.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.